We call it World War I, World War II, but it's really two different stages of one global conflict.
Anyone with half a brain knew that the Treaty of Versailles was essentially the starting gun for the Second World War.
In the bitter cold of winter, 1939, amidst the thick forests of Finland, an unexplainable horror occurred. The world knows of the Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland, but what history often overlooks is a chilling mystery that lies buried beneath the snow. It's the untold story of the Soviet division that faced an enemy beyond comprehension, an enemy that left no survivors. But what could have caused the sudden and unexplained massacre of the Soviet division in the Finnish wilderness? Join us as we unravel the Soviet division that was massacred by something unknown in Finland during 1939. Finland's terrifying Winter War. The Winter War, a gripping conflict that erupted between the Soviet Union and Finland in November 1939, holds a special place in history as a David-and-Goliath tale of resilience and defiance. As snow blanketed the rugged Finnish terrain, a nation of determined people found themselves marked against the mighty Soviet war machine. Behind the scenes of this tumultuous period lay a complex web of geopolitical tensions born from the aftermath of World War I and the Russian Civil War. Finland, having declared independence from Russia in 1917, found itself caught in the crosshairs of Stalin's expansionist ambitions. The Soviet Union sought to reassert control over territories it deemed vital for its security, including the strategically significant Karelian Isthmus, which bordered the important Soviet city of Leningrad. The Finnish people, however, were fiercely protective of their newfound independence and refused to agree to Soviet demands. With a deep sense of national pride and unity, they prepared to defend their sovereignty against overwhelming odds. On November 30th, 1939, the conflict reached a tipping point when the Soviet Union launched a full-scale invasion of Finland. The spark that ignited this brutal confrontation was a shelling incident at Mainila, a border village which the Soviets critically used as a pretext for their aggression. Despite the international outcry against this obvious act of aggression, the Finnish people found themselves standing alone against the might of the Red Army. What followed was proof of the indomitable human spirit. Their soldiers, equipped with little more than rifles and skis, waged a fierce guerrilla campaign against the technologically superior Soviet forces. With cunning tactics and intimate knowledge of their harsh environment, they inflicted heavy casualties on the invaders, earning the respect and admiration of the world. As their winter descended, turning the landscape into a frozen battleground, the world watched in wonder as the underdog nation held its ground against overwhelming odds. Though the Winter War would ultimately end in territorial concessions for Finland, the courage and determination displayed by its people would forever be etched into the annals of history, inspiring future generations to stand firm in the face of adversity. Although Finland found itself facing the formidable might of the Soviet Red Army, which boasted a force of over 500,000 soldiers, they stood resilient despite being heavily outnumbered and possessing only a fraction of the resources. Led by General Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim, the Finnish forces utilized their deep understanding of the terrain to mount a robust defense. Employing tactics and strategic withdrawals, they turned the landscape to their advantage. The Mannerheim Line, a series of fortifications along the Karelian Isthmus, became an iconic symbol of their resistance. Winter's harsh grip further favored them, with temperatures declining to bone-chilling lows of -40 degrees Celsius, significantly impeding the Soviet advance. The Red Army, despite its numerical and equipment superiority, found itself ill-prepared for the extreme cold and the dense forests and swamps that characterized the Finnish landscape. Soviet tactics, heavily reliant on large conventional formations and direct assaults, faltered against the smart and evasive Finnish units. Furthermore, The clear out of the 1930s had taken a toll on the Soviet officer corps, leaving a leadership deficit that critically impacted operational capabilities. Thus, their resilience, coupled with its strategic maneuvers and the unforgiving nature of the terrain, proved to be significant factors in holding off the Soviet onslaught. The Winter War, which lasted from November 1939 to March 1940, arose from Soviet demands for territorial concessions from Finland, particularly in the Karelian region. The Soviet Union sought to establish a negotiation zone around Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, to safeguard against potential future attacks. However, Finland, despite being significantly outnumbered and outgunned, fiercely resisted the Soviet invasion. One notable aspect of the conflict was the use of the rugged Finnish terrain to their advantage. Finnish soldiers, adept at foreseeing and navigating through forests, employed guerrilla tactics to harass and slow down the advancing Soviet forces. This unconventional warfare took a toll on the Soviet troops, who were accustomed to more conventional battles on the open plains. The international response to the Winter War was varied. While they received widespread sympathy and admiration for its gallant resistance, some Western powers were hesitant to fully support them due to concerns about provoking the Soviet Union. Nonetheless, individuals from various countries volunteered to fight alongside the Finns, forming the famous Winter War Foreign Volunteers. Despite Soviet attempts to breach the line, their defenders held firm, inflicting heavy casualties on the Soviet forces. The Winter War also witnessed notable acts of heroism, such as the defense of the Viipuri Bay against overwhelming odds by their coastal artillery. The Finnish Air Force, despite being outnumbered, also put up a valiant fight, utilizing tactics such as motti or encirclement to trap and destroy larger Soviet formations. The aftermath of the Winter War saw them emerge as a symbol of defiance against totalitarian aggression. While the peace treaty resulted in territorial losses for Finland, the nation's spirit remained unbroken. The resilience displayed during the Winter War would later play a crucial role during the continuation war between 1941 to 1944, when Finland sought to regain the territories lost to the Soviet Union. But one night particularly stood out during the period of the massacre. It's been tagged the Night of Horror by historians over the decades. The mysteries surrounding the Soviet massacre. The Finnish landscape, with its vast forests and frozen terrain, presented a formidable challenge to the invading forces. Despite their numerical superiority, the Soviet troops found themselves ill-prepared for the harsh conditions and the guerrilla tactics employed by them, who were determined to protect their homeland at all costs. The Soviet division, composed of hardened soldiers of the Red Army, had marched relentlessly into their territory, their confidence bolstered by the belief in their overwhelming military prowess. Yet, as they ventured deeper into their thick forests, their arrogance clashed with the unforgiving reality of nature's wrath. The Night of Horror, which happened amidst the strange silence of the woods, remains hidden in mystery and intrigue. Some accounts speak of strange lights flickering amidst the trees, while others tell of whispers carried by the chilling wind, heightening the soldiers' sense of unease. As the Soviet troops settled into their camp, their minds preoccupied with thoughts of conquest and victory, they were oblivious to the lurking danger that surrounded them. Little did they know that they were about to become entangled in a sequence of events that would defy rational explanation. Amidst the darkness, the forest seemed to come alive with unseen forces, testing the resolve of the soldiers and pushing them to the brink of despair. Supplies dwindled, morale declined, and whispers of supernatural occurrences spread like wildfire among the ranks. Then, in the dead of night, chaos erupted. Strange noises echoed through the trees, followed by cries of panic and confusion. Some claimed to have seen shadowy figures darting between the trees, while others spoke of inexplicable injuries afflicting their comrades. By the time dawn broke, the once proud Soviet division lay decimated, their ranks depleted by an unseen enemy that left no trace behind. The survivors, shaken to their core, struggled to make sense of the horrors they had witnessed, their minds grappling with the realization that they had ventured into a realm where the laws of nature seemed to bend and twist at will. As night enveloped the forest, shrouding it in an impenetrable cloak of darkness, the Soviet soldiers stationed in the camp could hardly anticipate the horrors that awaited them. These soldiers were seasoned veterans, sharpened by years of training for battle against conventional foes. However, nothing in their training could have prepared them for the evil-minded force that lurked in the shadows. The forest itself seemed to conspire against them, its dense canopy amplifying the sense of foreboding that hung heavy in the air. Unknown to many, these woods held a dark history, whispered about in local legend and tinged with superstition. Tales of restless spirits and ancient curses cast a funeral cloth over the landscape, intensifying the soldiers' unease. As the night wore on, the temperature dropped, plunging the forest into a strange silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant hoot of an owl. Yet, amidst this deceptive calm, a palpable tension simmered beneath the surface, a silent warning of the impending terror. Suddenly, without warning, chaos erupted. Witnesses would later recall the feeling of being hunted, of unseen eyes watching from the darkness. The attack was swift and merciless, leaving little time for the soldiers to react. Some reported glimpses of fleeting shapes darting between the trees, their movements unnaturally swift and elusive. In the aftermath, the camp resembled a scene from a nightmare. Tents lay torn asunder, their fabric rent by unseen claws. Equipment lay scattered aimlessly, discarded amidst the chaos of battle. The snow, once pristine and untouched, was now stained with the blood of fallen comrades, a grim evidence of the ferocity of the assault. Amidst the massacre, rumors began to circulate among the survivors, whispered tales of strange occurrences and inexplicable phenomena. In the days that followed, investigators combed through the wreckage, searching for clues to unravel the mystery of what had transpired. Yet, despite their efforts, many questions remained unanswered. The forest, it seemed, held its secrets close, its dark heart refusing to yield to the light of scrutiny. And though the details of that night may fade with time, the memory of the terror that stalked the forest would linger on, a haunting specter etched into the collective consciousness of all who dared to tread its shadowed paths. However, this theory was quickly challenged due to the nature of the injuries, the absence of defensive wounds, and the lack of evidence indicating a large attacking force. This perplexed military analysts and investigators alike. Speculation ran rampant, with some attributing the events to supernatural forces, drawing upon local information of evil-minded spirits and creatures rumored to inhabit the forests. Others speculated that it could be a psychological operation organized by the Finns to sow terror among the Soviet ranks. However, despite various theories swirling, the absence of solid evidence and the sheer magnitude of the massacre rendered any definitive explanation elusive. In the aftermath, a Soviet military investigation was launched to uncover the truth. However, this inquiry faced numerous challenges. The shadows of the Winter War. Surviving soldiers were reluctant to recount their experiences. Many were so deeply traumatized that they were unable to provide coherent testimonies. On the Finnish side, they vehemently denied any involvement, instead suggesting that the Soviets had succumbed to their own paranoia and the unforgiving environmental conditions. While this explanation seemed credible given the circumstances of the Winter War, it failed to address the specific details of the massacre or the evidence pointing towards a deliberate attack. The mystery surrounding the events of that fateful night continued to puzzle historians and researchers alike, leaving the true cause of the massacre hidden in uncertainty. The harsh freezing conditions compounded the challenges faced by the soldiers, with biting cold and treacherous terrain testing their resilience at every step. As they pressed onward, the thick forests loomed ominously, concealing potential threats and adding an element of suspense to their already perilous mission. Soviet military archives, notoriously secretive, offer only fragmented insights into the events of that fateful night. The official records themselves seem to be clouded in ambiguity, leaving historians and researchers to piece together the narrative from the scant clues available. Eyewitness accounts from survivors of the division paint a vivid yet haunting picture of the events that transpired. The sense of unease among the troops was noticeable, heightened by the knowledge that they were navigating unfamiliar territory with an unseen adversary lurking in the shadows. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense, with soldiers on edge and nerves frayed. Strange phenomena were reported, including sudden drops in temperature and unexplained movements in the underbrush. Some witnesses even claimed to have glimpsed fleeting shadow darting between the trees, adding an element of supernatural intrigue to the already chilling tale. Despite the passage of time, the massacre of the Soviet division remains one of the most enigmatic episodes of the Winter War. The questions surrounding what truly transpired that night continue to linger, fueling speculation and inspiring countless theories. Soft murmurs seemed to drift mysteriously from every corner, blending into the very fabric of the night. Then, suddenly, piercing screams shattered the tranquility, echoing through the frigid air. One survivor recounted how the atmosphere itself seemed to thicken, as if suffocating them, making even the simple act of breathing a struggle. Panic gripped them tightly, rendering movement nearly impossible. Another described strange shapes flitting at the perimeter of the campfire's glow, too swift and sinuous to be human, yet too purposeful in their motion to be dismissed as mere shadows or the whims of the wind. These survivors spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread, so tangible it felt as though it could be seized, a suffocating presence that enveloped both camp and occupants alike. Curiously, the Soviet military archives regarding the incident are notably scattered and heavily edited, indicative of an official effort to suppress information deemed detrimental to morale or suggestive of shortcomings within the Red Army. What little can be gleaned from these records hints at a swift and thorough investigation by Soviet authorities, yet the conclusions drawn remain absent altogether from public view. Official documents make fleeting mention of the division's deployment and its objectives, followed by an abrupt cessation of communication. Subsequent entries suggest a tragic loss and unforeseen circumstances, lacking any detailed narrative of the events that transpired. Notably absent is any official acknowledgement of enemy engagement, consistent with the scarcity of tangible evidence pointing towards a conventional military attack. The stark disparity between the clear recollections of eyewitnesses and the sparse cryptic details provided by Soviet records has sparked rampant speculation and a plethora of theories regarding the true nature of the incident. Some researchers posit that the Soviet authorities' reluctance was an attempt to conceal an encounter with forces beyond their comprehension or control, perhaps to safeguard the perceived invincibility of the Red Army. Some historians speculate that the incident in question could have been the result of a classified military experiment gone wrong, involving advanced weaponry or experimental tactics. Such experiments were not uncommon during the tumultuous period of World War II, where both Axis and Allied powers were exploring unconventional methods to gain an advantage on the battlefield. Additionally, the lack of documentation and acknowledgement of the event within Soviet military archives has fueled speculation about the involvement of high-ranking officials or sensitive political considerations. Furthermore, the psychological toll of war and the authoritarian regime under Stalin cannot be overlooked. Many soldiers and civilians alike were subjected to intense propaganda campaigns aimed at fostering unwavering loyalty to the state and its leaders. In such an environment, dissent or contradictory accounts of events were often met with severe consequences, including imprisonment or execution. Moreover, the survivors of the incident may have faced not only external pressure but also internal conflicts. The trauma they endured could have led to fragmented memories or reluctance to revisit painful experiences. Some survivors might have chosen to bury their recollections deep within their psyche as a means of self-preservation, further complicating efforts to uncover the truth. In light of these complexities, unraveling the mystery surrounding the incident requires a careful examination of archival records, eyewitness testimonies, and the broader historical context of wartime Soviet society. Yet, despite decades of research and speculation, many questions remain unanswered, adding to the intrigue and mystery of this enigmatic chapter in history. In the quest for answers, a plethora of explanations and conjectures have surfaced, each endeavoring to unravel the enigma behind the unexplainable events of that tragic night. The Soviet soldiers' devastating demise. Theories range from the plausible to the fantastical, each striving to shed light on the haunting question that has lingered since then. What formidable force could have obliterated an entire military unit under such mysterious circumstances? One of the more grounded hypotheses proposes that the division succumbed to the relentless predation of a pack of wolves or other carnivorous creatures. The brutal Finnish winter might have driven these wild animals to desperation, impelling them to launch a fierce assault on the unsuspecting soldiers. Advocates of this theory point to the savage mutilation of the bodies as compelling evidence of animal predation. However, skeptics raise doubts, contending that the Soviet soldiers, armed and trained, would likely have put up a formidable defense against such an onslaught. The absence of conclusive evidence of a struggle adds weight to their skepticism. Another theory speculates that the extreme weather conditions prevailing in the region could have played a pivotal role in the soldiers' demise. The harsh winter, with its bone-chilling cold and treacherous terrain, might have posed insurmountable challenges to the ill-prepared division, leading to their tragic downfall. The extreme cold of the winter brought more than just shivers to the Soviet forces. It plunged them into a realm of danger where hypothermia lurked, ready to steal their warmth and clarity. As the bitter cold crunch hit their bodies, it wasn't just physical distress they faced. Disorientation set in, turning the icy landscape into a maze of confusion. In the depths of their suffering, some even began to see things that weren't there, their minds playing tricks on them with illusions. Within the camp, chaos brewed like a storm, fueled by panic. It was a tragic scene of mass panic attack, where fear ran rampant and self-inflicted harm became a grim reality. While the brutal winter undoubtedly played its part in the suffering endured by the Soviet soldiers, the injuries they bore and the devastation around them hinted at something more threatening than just the biting cold. Whispers circulated among the survivors, tales of a covert Finnish military operation whispered in silent tones. The idea that the enemy had unleashed psychological warfare upon them, exploiting their vulnerabilities with guerrilla tactics, crept into their minds. Perhaps it was the cunning familiarity with the terrain that allowed the Finns to strike unexpectedly, inducing terror with mimicry of animal sounds or tales drawn from local legends. Yet amidst these speculations, evidence was scant. Finnish military records of the time failed to confirm such operations, leaving these theories dangling in the air like cobwebs. Some desperate souls even reached for supernatural explanations, delving into the rich fabric of their tradition, where spirits and mysterious creatures roamed the dark forests. Stories of the HRA, a seductive forest spirit, and other enigmatic beings were woven into the narrative, suggesting that the soldiers had encountered forces beyond mortal understanding. But while these tales may have captured the imagination, they lacked the weight of evidence. Historians, with their feet firmly planted in the realm of facts, dismissed such notions as mere flights of fancy, leaving the mysteries of that bitter winter to the cold embrace of history. However, this perplexing incident delves deeper into the realms of mystery, shedding light on the intricate workings of the human psyche when faced with the unexplainable. Amidst the chilling winter landscape of the Soviet-Finnish conflict, Whispers of the supernatural permeated the air, adding a strange layer to the already tense atmosphere. As the frigid winds of war swept across the battlefields, the soldiers found themselves engulfed not only in the physical struggles of combat, but also in the psychological warfare waged within their own minds. Isolation, aggravated by the harsh conditions of the Finnish wilderness, crunched at their sanity, while the ever-looming threat of death loitered like a specter in the shadows. In the cloudy depths of fear and uncertainty, tales of their supernatural warfare tactics took on a life of their own, weaving through the ranks of the Soviet troops like a whispered curse. Stories of spectral warriors imbued with otherworldly powers haunted the minds of the soldiers, sowing seeds of doubt and depression. Within this bottle of anxiety, the human psyche swayed on the edge of collapse, succumbing to the insidious grip of mass panic attack. In the agony of this collective madness, the boundaries between reality and illusion blurred, giving rise to a nightmarish scenario where comrades turned against each other in a frenzy of fear-induced violence. Yet, amidst the chaos, another theory emerges, shrouded in the shadowy realm of covert warfare. Speculation abounds regarding the potential use of chemical or biological agents, unleashed either through Soviet mishandling or as a deliberate ploy by the Finnish forces. The very air they breathed became laden with suspicion, as whispers of toxic substances swirling amidst the snowflakes hinted at a silent, unseen enemy lurking in the midst of war. However, despite the tantalizing whispers of conspiracy and intrigue, historical records stand as silent guardians, guarding the truth amidst the fog of war. There exists no concrete evidence to substantiate the deployment of such wicked weapons during the Winter War, leaving the veil of uncertainty draped over this chilling chapter in history. Throughout the annals of military history, there exist numerous captivating and perplexing events, similar to the tragic massacre of the Soviet division in Finland. Tales of mysterious events in military history. Mysterious occurrences, spread across different times and places, share a common thread of enigma that challenges our comprehension of the past. One such enigma from Soviet history is the Dyatlov Pass incident, which remains one of the most renowned mysteries. It revolves around the inexplicable deaths of 9 hikers in the remote northern Ural Mountains. Like the soldiers in Finland, these hikers were discovered under puzzling circumstances, exhibiting a range of injuries from minor to fatal. Despite extensive investigation, no single explanation could fully account for their demise. Theories abound, from natural causes like landslides to more speculative notions involving military experiments or encounters with unidentified flying objects. Similarly confounding is the Battle of Los Angeles, an event that happened during the early stages of World War II. Residents were jolted awake by air raid sirens and anti-aircraft fire, believing themselves under enemy attack. However, no hostile aircraft were ever confirmed, leaving the source of the perceived threat hidden in mystery. This sudden and chaotic event, reminiscent of the Finnish forest massacre, sparked a flurry of explanations ranging from wartime jitters to outlandish theories involving alien spacecraft. Moving beyond terrestrial mysteries, we encounter the infamous Bermuda Triangle, notorious for its inexplicable disappearances of ships and aircraft. Among these vanishings, the case of Flight 19 stands out prominently. This group of 5 U.S. Navy bombers disappeared without a trace during a routine training mission in 1945, along with the rescue plane dispatched to find them. Such incidents fuel speculation about the supposed supernatural properties of the Bermuda Triangle, adding yet another layer of intrigue to this enduring mystery. During World War I, amidst the chaos and carnage of the battlefield, soldiers often found comfort in tales that transcended the harsh realities of war. One such tale that emerged was the reported appearance of angelic figures over British troops during the Battle of Mons in 1914. These celestial beings were said to have provided a divine shield, protecting the soldiers from the relentless onslaught of the German army. As the war raged on, the legend of the Angels of Mons became twisted with the broader narrative of wartime information, blending with accounts of miraculous interventions and supernatural occurrences. Yet, beneath the appearance of magic lay the grim reality of warfare, the psychological toll inflicted upon those forced into the affliction of combat. The soldiers' desperate longing for divine intervention and the harrowing experiences they endured on the battlefield converged to give rise to the enduring saga. Similarly, in the Finnish conflict during World War II, a lesser-known but equally compelling narrative unfolded. Their soldiers, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, resorted to unconventional tactics to repel the invading Soviet forces. Amidst the thick forests and icy terrain of Finland, whispers spread of strange encounters and unexplained phenomena. Tales of mysterious figures darting through the shadows and spectral apparitions haunting the battlefield became ingrained in the folklore of the Winter War. In the records of military history, another intriguing chapter happens with the Ghost Army, a secret unit of artists, designers, and engineers tasked with employing deception and illusion to confuse the enemy. Through the cunning use of inflatable tanks, dummy artillery, and fabricated radio transmissions, they created elaborate ruses to deceive German intelligence. Operating in the shadows of secrecy, the Ghost Army played a crucial role in shaping the outcome of key battles, their exploits cloaked in the veils of wartime secrecy until decades later. These captivating narratives underscore the versatile nature of warfare, where the boundaries between reality and saga blur amidst the chaos of conflict. Psychological strategies, combined with the natural inclination towards superstition among soldiers, played a crucial role in the unfolding of enigmatic events during wartime. Psychological warfare targets weaknesses in human psychology, exploiting fear and uncertainty to scatter discord and panic among enemy ranks. In the Winter War, the isolated and harsh Finnish forests provided an ideal environment for such tactics. One such method involved capitalizing on the psychological impact of the weird and unfamiliar landscape on Soviet troops. Facing the constant threat of death, soldiers often turned to superstitions and rituals for comfort and a sense of control over their fate. The introduction of local Finnish customs into this mix could have intensified the psychological strain on the troops, making them more open to panic and irrational behavior. It is possible that the Finns deliberately spread rumors or staged events to evoke these legendary beings, exploiting the superstitions of the Soviet soldiers and undermining their morale. The thick forests of Finland, with their limited visibility and the constant presence of natural sounds that could be mistaken for threats, created an environment ripe for psychological manipulation. Isolation from familiar surroundings and breakdown of regular communication channels heightened soldiers' anxiety and paranoia, making them more receptive to rumors and fearful imaginings. In such an environment, the line between reality and superstition blurred, making psychological warfare even more effective. While materially different, historical examples such as the Allies' use of camouflage soldiers during World War II underscore the underlying principle of exploiting the enemy's psychological vulnerabilities. The aftermath of the mysterious events in Finland, with its lack of conclusive evidence and the rumors surrounding the deaths, deeply impacted Soviet forces. This legacy highlights the enduring impact of fear and superstition on the human psyche in the context of military conflicts. Which one of this Soviet division that was massacred by something unknown in Finland during the 1939 war do you find intriguing? Share your thoughts and answers with us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure you give thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.